Kazuma is a disgusting, filthy weeb who jerk his peanut to high school anime girls all day. However, one day, he gets hit by a truck-kun and meets a thick goddess who gives him a quest to save the entire world. Kazuma agrees, but on a condition that the goddess will let him get freaky with her after he saves the world.
Yeah, boy.
A shut-in boy decides to go outside and touch grass for once, or rather, to get a limited edition of an online game that's going on sale today. After a 5-hour trip, he finally returns with his prize, but as he walks a bit faster to get away from the sun, he sees a girl from his school go right in the way of a truck, runs in and pushes her off the path, getting caressed by the truck in the process. As he wakes up in a weird space, a girl with a very short dress tells him that he passed away. He asks the lady if the girl he pushed out of the way survived, and the lady says that yes, but she would have survived anyway. She laughs and explains that what he thought was a truck was actually a tractor, and he passed away from shock, and then he wet himself too, and even the doctors laughed at him. After the boy understandably has a crash out over this, she introduces herself as Aqua, a goddess that guides young souls to the afterlife. She offers him two choices, to either reincarnate or go to the afterlife, but warns him that there's nothing to do in heaven anyway. But then she starts describing a world where a villain called the Devil King threatens the peace of the world, and the population is declining since a lot of people straight up refuse to reincarnate. She then offers to reincarnate him into that world with a bonus of keeping his memories and even having a shiny new special ability or a piece of equipment to make a change for the better in the declining world. The boy asks if he'll have to learn the local language, but the goddess pulls out a book and quickly explains that she can overload his brain for a moment to learn it instantly, but there is a tiny microscopic chance that this will make his brain explode. Good thing it's not math. Anyone going into that world would be finished. He's dubious about all this, but then she moves on to making him pick a special ability or equipment. As he looks through the list, she hurries him up, saying that he'll be a shut-in there too anyway, which causes him to get upset and say that he will choose her to go with him. Little does he know this will bring him a lot more trouble. An angelic girl suddenly appears and says that this does not break the rules, bidding the shocked Aqua a farewell. She screams that she has no fighting ability to speak of, just the power of healing, but it's just too late, and as the boy cackles from pulling one over Aqua, the angel lady says that if they defeat the Demon King, they will get any of their wishes granted. And with this, the two finally get sent to their destination. They find themselves at Axel, the town of beginning adventures. The boy gets excited seeing a completely different magical world. Meanwhile, Aqua prays for this man's downfall. When he says that she should stop acting crazy and give him some starting gear, she grabs and shakes him, scaring passers-by, shouting that she can't go back and doesn't know what to do now. The boy says that there must be a guild around since it's such a video game-ish world, and asks Aqua where it is since she's a goddess. But she doesn't know everything about this world, so he just gives up on the useless goddess and moves on. When they finally find the guild, a guy inside calls her clothes weird and says he hasn't seen them before, but is friendly enough to point them to the reception desk. Aqua is impressed by the boy talking with the man smoothly and wonders why he was a shut-in with no friends or girlfriends, prompting the boy to get angry once more. When they get to a reception desk, they find out there's a registration fee, and the useless goddess didn't arrange anything for them since they left in haste. As they get to a table in the guild to reorient themselves, Aqua calls the boy unreliable after all, telling him that she's going to try something herself now. She approaches a priest and reveals that she's the object of worship for the religious order of Axis, the goddess Aqua, but the priest says he's from the Eris sect instead. Turns out Eris is a subordinate of Aqua, and the priest does lend them some money, but tells her not to impersonate a goddess, causing Aqua to have a little mental breakdown. The two return to the reception desk to put in the registration fee, and the receptionist explains that they will get a registration card to track how many monsters they've defeated, raise their level, and acquire new skills. She tells the boy to put his hand over the crystal that imprints his stats over the card and tells him to choose his class according to stats. When the process finishes, the receptionist reads the information on the card out loud, and we finally find out that the boy's name is Kazuma Satu. As for his stats, they're average across the board, with higher intelligence and luck, which prompts the receptionist girl to suggest that he should be a merchant instead. Put the fries in the bag, son. He's understandably upset, but just picks the adventurer class, which is the most common. It's the complete opposite for Aqua, because all her stats are high except abysmal intelligence and luck. The receptionist beams and says she can be anything except the wizard class, so Aqua decides on being an archpriest. A crowd gathers to marvel and praise her, messing up Kazuma's mood even more. Even then, he's excited about his new life of adventure. A montage ensues in which Kazuma and Aqua work hard as day laborers who sleep in the horse stables, and only after some time does Kazuma realize that this is definitely not what he signed up for. It seems like all the monsters nearby have been defeated, so there's no starting jobs for the two of them to do. But out of nowhere, Aqua says that they should get away from the town and finally find some quests to go on, even if they're still only level 1. As Kazuma is watching Aqua sleep soundly on the hay in the stable, he laments laments his current situation of being a low-rank adventurer. As Aqua wakes up, he scolds her for sleeping in until noon on the day they wanted to go on a quest, and then wonders why everything is so peaceful when the world is supposedly in peril. Aqua explains that this town is the farthest away from the Devil King's castle, so it's good for scrub adventurers, then gets up to finally get ready for the quest. The quest they've chosen is to slay 5 giant toads in 3 days, but it's not as simple as it sounds. As Kazuma runs away from the monster, Aqua laughs at him and demands to be treated with respect and reverence for her help, but the frog goes for her instead and almost eats her whole. Fortunately, or unfortunately, the frog stops moving while trying to eat Aqua, so Kazuma manages to rescue her. Aqua hugs Kazuma, but she's all slimy and upset, so she gathers her power and attacks another toad to cool off. She pulls out an impressive skill called God Blow, but it does absolutely nothing to the toad, and she gets swallowed again. At the end of the day, they manage to slay 2 giant toads. They get a middling pay for their progress and start thinking on what to improve while eating dinner. Kazuma thinks that as rookies they won't be able to find allies to recruit into the party, but Aqua thinks since she's an archpriest there will be interest in that after all. The next day, they put out a recruitment offer and waited near the board, but nobody came. Thinking that the requirement of having an advanced job is too much, Kazuma says that they should lower the entry point, but then a pipsqueak with a staff approaches, talking almighty. She calls herself Megumin and says she's an arch-wizard, but then collapses out of hunger. When Kazuma asks why she wears the eye patch, Megumin starts saying it's a seal to suppress her extraordinary powers, then immediately dials back and says it's just for looks. Aqua says that since she has a red eye, she must be a crimson demon, and they're born with great magical talents. As they look through her ID card, they realize the odd girl is not lying, and she has a really high magic stat, so Kazuma finally treats her to some food. Later on, they finally go out on a quest, and Megumin says that she needs time to prepare her spell, so Kazuma and Aqua decide to distract the toad approaching them, while Megumin prepares to blast away the farther one. Aqua mentions she's a goddess out loud, and Kazuma tries to hide that fact by calling her crazy, so she gets pissed off and rushes in to attack the toad, only to get swallowed again. I imagine this is how League of Legends players feel. As Kazuma watches all this happening, Megumin finishes chanting her explosion spell and summons an impressive pillar of fire at the spot where the farther frog was. Another frog wakes up from a nap from all the commotion, but when Kazuma calls for Megumin, he finds her completely passed out on the ground. She explains that a spell with this power takes all of her magic and promptly gets swallowed by the woken up frog, so now Kazuma has to save both Megumin and Aqua. They come back to town all covered in frog goo, but at least they completed the quest. Kazuma asks Megumin to use weaker spells, but she says the explosion magic is all she can do. When asked why, she passionately explains that she loves explosion magic above all else, so even if her learning other magic would make quests easier, she's not willing to compromise. Aqua sympathizes with her, but Kazuma is already ready to drop her from the party as soon as they split the reward. After Megumin begs to be a permanent party member and says she doesn't need to be paid as long as she gets food, he still refuses to budge, but then girls nearby suspect Kazuma did something bad to the girls covered in goo and is now throwing them away, so he has to relent and accept her into the fray to get out of the situation. Kazuma turns in the quest and levels up 4 times as a result, but the overall pay divided between the 3 of them is depressing, and all the other quests on the board are unfit for their party. As he mulls over all that, a gorgeous female knight approaches him, asking if they're still recruiting party members. She presents herself as Darkness of the Crusader class, but as she talks more and more, she gets visibly very flustered and embarrassed. After Darkness passionately asks what happened to his slimy teammates, Kazuma replies that they were swallowed by giant toads. She acts weird, so Kazuma tries to blow her off by saying that they're all inadequate. To that, she says that she's also pretty bad, and asks him to use her as a meat shield. Kazuma nearly has a heart attack, but still tries to refuse, and when he says she might get swallowed by monsters too, she agrees a bit too enthusiastically. Next day, Kazuma enters the guild and finds Aqua doing parlor tricks to impress everyone. He sits down to eat next to Megumin, and they talk about how to acquire new skills. She tries to get him to learn explosion magic, but then he calls her a little girl and she stops talking to him completely. Just then, Darkness appears behind this man with the intention of continuing their talk. He refuses again, and she moans. A thief girl named Chris approaches them and tells Darkness not to be too pushy, then offers to teach Kazuma a good thief skill. They go outside, and she talks about a few low-cost but useful skills, one of them being the steal skill. He learns enemy detection, lure can steal from her, and she gets him to fight her to use the skills in a real fight. She shows him an expensive dagger and puts a bunch of stones in her hands to lower the chance of it being stolen, but when he uses the skill, he manages to steal the underwear off of her. Seeing this, Darkness calls it a vile act while somewhat enjoying it. When they go back inside, Kazuma shows off his steal skill on Megumin, but even though the loot should be random, he manages to steal the lady's panties again. As Darkness hysterically asks to let her into the party, he refuses again. Aqua and Megumin find out that she's a crusader and are ready to accept her into the party, but Kazuma tries to make both Megumin and Darkness reconsider joining by saying he and Aqua want to defeat the Devil King. It doesn't work, but then an emergency bell notifies everyone there's enemies near the city. Everyone goes out, and what's happening ends up being an urgent quest quest to defeat flying cabbages trying to get into the city. Darkness tries to show off to Kazuma, but ends up not hitting a single cabbage and ends up being pummeled by a bunch of them while protecting another adventurer. As she gets hit, her armor gets destroyed, exposing more and more of her skin, which delights her. Honestly, just throw out the whole Crusader at this point. Meanwhile, Megumin tries to solve the situation by way of explosion magic, and she manages to do so with great success. A large number of cabbages are gathered as a result, and everyone in town gets to eat cabbage stir-fry that day. As Aqua, Megumin, and Darkness praise each other for a job well done, it is decided that Darkness will indeed join the party without Kazuma's consent. Later on, Kazuma finally learns a new skill, which is a spell that creates water. Darkness and Megumin show off the new equipment they bought with the reward from the cabbage quest. Meanwhile, Aqua is pissed because most of what she caught was actually lettuce. Kazuma reveals that he got a small fortune of 1,000,000 iris from his quest rewards. Aqua immediately coerces him into paying off the tab of 100,000 that she had, and after that he gets a more fitting outfit for an adventurer. The party tries to plan for what to do next, and everyone has different ideas, but ultimately they approach the quest board and find out that there's only high-level quests available. Turns out the Devil King's subordinate has appeared nearby, so all the low-level monsters are in hiding. Kazuma and Megumin go out of town for magic training, or more accurately, so Kazuma could carry the lady home after she collapses after her daily single spell. Need someone who would do that after I do the dishes. They see an eerie castle on a cliffside, and Megumin tries to blast it with explosion magic, then collapses. This continues daily as Aqua works a part-time job and Darkness is gone to train at her family home. As days go by, Kazuma notices Megumin's explosions become more and more refined. Nothing much changes, however, so he chastises Aqua for being useless. As Darkness asks to be demeaned instead, another emergency arises at the gates of the city. Devil King's subordinate, a headless knight. The knight screams out, asking who has been firing off explosion magic at his castle every day. As everybody looks around, Megumin steps forth. The knight screams at her to face him openly instead of this harassment, but in a giga-brain move, she says it was all just a tactic to lure him here on his own. Aqua comes in to support Megumin and attempt to purify the knight, but he fires off a curse that would destroy whoever gets hit by it in 7 days. Darkness manages to jump in front and get hit by it, and the knight laughs and gets ready to leave, telling Megumin to watch her friend slowly and painfully fade away because of her actions. Darkness gets up and immediately starts spouting some nonsense about coming with him and being made to do all sorts of perverse acts for him, weirding the knight out. He flees, telling Megumin to come to his castle if he wants Darkness to stay alive. Megumin goes ahead to do just that, and Kazuma intends to go with her to keep her from casting an explosion on any random thing. As they have a nice moment talking about trusting each other, Aqua easily dispels the knight's curse from Darkness. Everybody claps, and this is how the quest to repel the headless knight finishes. While everybody except Megumin and Kazuma, who were really excited to go on an actual adventure for once, watching Aqua sleeping peacefully, Kazuma laments that this is not how his parallel world life should go. Later on, while the party gathers in the guild, Aqua begs everyone to go on a quest, even if all that's left are the high difficulty ones, because she's sick of working part-time. Relatable. Kazuma sends Aqua off to find a quest on the board, but swoops in and stops her when she pulls some insane quest from there. They end up choosing a quest to purify the town lake so the brutal alligators residing there would move to a different habitat, so the alligators won't hurt Aqua while she purifies the lake. They put Aqua in a cage. Now if only they could protect her from herself. While the rest of the party is located at a safe distance from the lake, they engage in light conversation. 2 hours in, the alligators finally notice the useless goddess in the cage and start attacking it. Aqua frantically tries to purify the water faster while the alligators play with the cage in all sorts of ways. Finally, 7 hours into the quest, the lake is purified and everyone approaches Aqua's cage. They call out to her, but she's unresponsive, only saying that she doesn't want to get out of the cage anymore, and not even everyone leaving the full reward to Aqua is enough to snap her out of it. Somewhere else, a party ruled by Mitsurugi Kyoya, another guy who reincarnated here after his demise in our world, is fighting an ancient dragon. He uses his cursed sword, Graham, to finish the dragon off once and for all. After they go back to the city, his party members start fighting over his attention, but all he's thinking about is the promise to save this world that he made to Aqua before he came to this world. Suddenly, he hears her voice again, and when he approaches her, he notices her being listless inside a cage and panics. Mitsurugi literally bends the bars of the cage to get to her, but it takes Kazuma reminding her that she's a goddess to pep up and get her cheer back. She doesn't recognize the guy at first, and when he asks what happened for her to be out here and in a cage, the brief explanation sends him into an even worse panic. He gets angry at Kazuma over dragging her along with him and letting her sleep in the stable, and then proposes that all the girls from Kazuma's party join him instead, and even be given full sets of high-quality equipment. The girls feel all the red flags in the world from that guy, so they all refuse. Mitsurugi proposes a duel with Kazuma to add Aqua to his party, and Kazuma immediately starts attacking and uses the steel skill to get his cursed sword and bonks him with it, rendering the red flag guy unconscious. His party members pipe up, but he threatens them with using the steel skill to steal their underwear and leaves with the guy's sword as they run away, creeped out. I think Kazuma's making his reputation even worse. Next day, day, Aqua nearly cries because the cost to repair the broken cage costs her 2/3 of her quest reward, and then Mitsurugi appears again. He says that he's heard rumors about Kazuma stealing panties from girls and coveting them in slime, his nickname being Kazuma the Brute. Aqua attacks him with God Blow and forces him to pay the full quest rewards worth for bending the cage, so the simp does that immediately. Then he asks Kazuma to return his sword, but Kazuma has already sold it off, so he storms off, his party members running after him. Then Darkness finally asks why the guy keeps calling her goddess, so Kazuma thinks that it might be time to reveal that she's actually a goddess. But when Aqua confirms as such, Darkness and Megaman don't believe her. Then another emergency resounds throughout town, so they have to go to the gates at once. The Headless Knight is here again, and he's not happy about nobody coming to his castle. As he explodes with dark energy, Kazuma is just confused. Kazuma says that they're not coming to explode the castle every day anymore, but the knight points at Megumin and says she still comes by daily. As Kazuma pinches both her cheeks, she says that she couldn't stop after doing it so much, and it is found out that Aqua helped her out to get revenge for all low-level quests disappearing because the knight is here. The knight angrily presents himself as Verdia and asks why they haven't been seeking retribution for Darkness's supposed demise from the curse. Just then, Darkness comes up front, embarrassed from the attention on her. Absolutely flabbergasted, he says that he can easily defeat everyone in the city, but Aqua uses an anti-undead spell. He shrieks and falls to the ground like you when you stub your toe, and Aqua says that it didn't work as well as she hoped, to which Kazuma disagrees, saying it worked just fine. Verdia gets back up, but gets scared and summons a bunch of undead to fight for him. Aqua fires off a stronger spell at him, and he shrieks and falls again, but then tells his minions to slaughter everyone in the city. The undead all go for Aqua instead, subconsciously seeking salvation from a goddess. As she's running from the horde, she goes for Kazuma to help her, but now they're just running away together with no clear solution. Kazuma tells Megumin to prepare her magic and runs straight for Verdia, creating a situation where she can hit both the horde and the knight. She casts her explosion magic and leaves a smoldering crater, but it leaves her powerless, so she asks Kazuma to carry her on his back. Everyone is delighted, but Verdia comes back up from the crater still, laughing. He challenges them all to a fight. A bunch of random guys attack Verdia, but he throws his helmet up, which causes an eye to appear up in the sky. The knight's movement gets fluid and fast, so he defeats all of them within a moment. Someone in the back says that Mitsurugi will arrive soon enough and defeat him, but Kazuma has his doubts about that. The knight advances, and the first line of defense is Darkness standing in his way. Their swords clash, and Darkness loudly talking about him possibly doing lewd things to her weirds Verdia out. Then, she goes for an attack, and of course she misses him even though he didn't move an inch from where he was. We need to check this lady's eyesight. The knight attacks, chipping away at Darkness's armor and making her think of even weirder stuff. Using the moment, Kazuma uses a spell to create water, then freezes it to make it harder for Verdia to move. He then uses steel, but it doesn't work, and Verdia easily breaks out of the ice. As Verdia pummels Darkness, Kazuma tries to think of what would be his weakness in a video game. He notices that the knight dodged water swiftly, so he tells all the mages to use water magic on the knight too, forcing him to focus on dodging. Then he asks Aqua if she can cast water spells, and she says that she will if he apologizes for calling her a lame goddess. He doesn't, which upsets her, but she still uses her goddess powers to summon a whole flood. The knight is weakened, but not down for the count yet. As he throws his helmet up again, Kazuma uses steel and manages to steal the helmet. With a grin, he starts playing Kick the Can with the helmet, telling others to do so as well, while Aqua finally gets her staff and casts the sacred spell to finish the night off. Finally, Verdia disappears. The sky clears up, and Darkness gives out a prayer for the fallen warriors. Turns out they are not so fallen since Aqua just used resurrection on them, so that just embarrasses the Crusader. Not the last time she gets beat red, I'm sure. Next day, Kazuma enters the guild to find everyone except Megumin having a beer. As everyone congratulates them on defeating Verdia, the guild receptionist gives them out a reward of 300 million Eris. Kazuma tells the rest of the party that he plans to live out a peaceful life, and as they argue, the receptionist adds that Aqua's flood caused big damage to the city, and they have to pay 340 million Eris off to fix that, which is diabolical. So, no peaceful life for Kazuma. Kazuma wakes up into space between life and death again, figuring that he passed away for a second time. Turning back time to after they defeated the knight Verdia, winter came and Kazuma complained that he needed money again. Aqua, not figuring out what this is about, says that she also wants money and she should be spoiled since she's a goddess and saved the entire city. Kazuma, now pissed off, says that he wants money because they're in extreme debt and that she should take care of the debt on her own since she's the one who both saved and destroyed the city. As Aqua begs Kazuma not to leave her alone with the debt, Darkness and Megumin arrive, so they all go to the quest board to look for something decent. After looking at a bunch of insane-sounding quests, they settle on the task of defeating snow sprites in the plains. When they arrive at the snowy plains, there are indeed a lot of sprites floating around. While Kazuma chases them around trying to defeat them, Aqua catches them with a bug net and puts them in bottles so they would always have ice-cold drinks. Megumin gets 8 of them with her explosion magic, but the party gets buried in the snow. Just when they get out, a snow hail arrives, and with it, a strong monster called Winter Shogun. Darkness is excited for the monster to do all sorts of things to her, but then he attacks and straight up cuts half the blade off her sword. Megumin plays plays dead to not deal with all this, and Aqua says that the snow sprites pick up and realize the thoughts of people wandering the plains, so the shogun was most likely made from the thoughts of another Japanese person who reincarnated in this world. Aqua says that the shogun will forgive them if they apologize and prostrate, so she herself does that. Kazuma tries to shove darkness to the ground, which delights her, but before he can drop his weapon and prostrate properly, the shogun attacks. Thus, we get to the moment when Kazuma is back at the space between worlds where he met Aqua for the first time. A goddess appears before him and presents herself as Eris, lamenting his unfortunate passing. Then, she says she'll reincarnate him back into Japan into an affluent family so he could lead a life of comfort. He's delighted with the turn of events, but when he looks back on his adventures with Aqua, Megumin, and Darkness, tears fill his eyes, and he realizes he was fond of his adventures in that good-for-nothing world after all. Just then, Aqua's voice resounds. She casts recovery magic on him so he can come back now. Eris, however, says that he cannot be revived now that he reincarnated once. To that, Aqua talks smack about that rule, and when she finds out that the goddess who said that is Eris, she exposes her for being so full of herself as to make her name the local currency and wear breast pads. After Eris hastily makes an exception to revive Kazuma, she says that this will be their little secret and sends him back to his body. He wakes up back in the snow plains, and his head is on Aqua's lap as Darkness and Megumin hug him, crying tears of happiness that he's back. Truly, the only sane person being back in the world should be an occasion for joy. When Aqua asks for gratitude from him, he instead says he'd rather have Eris along with him instead, and only Darkness shielding him stops Aqua from sending him back to her with a punch. Megumin tells him that his death was gruesome and that he was beheaded by the shogun, so he decides to retire from the quest. Later on, as they rest in the guild, Aqua reveals that she did save one sprite for herself. Kazuma wants to defeat it to get some money, but she refuses, saying that she'll make a refrigerator with it. As Aqua orders some food, Kazuma thinks back on the other goddess he met. As he swoons over the memories of her beauty and grace, Aqua orders a bunch of food and wastes money from their savings for it. Everyone chows down, but Kazuma kinda regrets going back to this world now. Kazuma and Aqua are struggling to make it through the winter. As Aqua watches the fire she made fade away, she tries to burn Kazuma's tracksuit to stoke the fire, but Kazuma snatches it out of her hands before it's totally burned. As they argue, the fire goes out for good. I guess the age of fire has ended. They go into the city, and Kazuma says that he would like a skill that he could use as a main weapon. They enter a shop, and Aqua immediately throws a fit seeing a woman she recognizes, screaming that it's unfair that she's working in a shop while Aqua sleeps in the stables. Kazuma pacifies her by bonking her out of consciousness. They both know the lady. Her name is Wiz, and she's a lich and a ruler of the undead, called the No-Life King. They met her on a previous job where she was purifying the spirits in a graveyard, and Aqua took on the job from her. As she serves tea to them, Aqua is still pissed that a lich is living a better life than her, and when Kazuma asks if she could teach him a skill, she explodes. She says that an attendant of the goddess shouldn't learn skills from the undead, and Kazuma has troubles with that statement, but when Wiz learns that Aqua is the head goddess of the Axis sect, she shrieks because her followers are apparently all lunatics. Are you surprised? I am not surprised. After Aqua stops crying and gets distracted by jingling keys or something, Wiz and Kazuma start talking again, and she says that she's impressed he defeated Verdia since his skill with the sword was very well known. Kazuma asks how she knows that, and Wiz casually answers that she's one of the 8 leaders of the Devil King's army. Aqua leaps into action and captures Wiz, probably now seeing her as a bunch of moneybags stacked on top of each other, but Wiz says she's just been charged with maintaining the barrier on Devil King's castle, and there's no bounty for capturing her since she never hurt anyone. Wiz says that defeating all the leaders will open the path to the Devil King, and Aqua wants to start right now by defeating the lady, but Kazuma says that even if they did that, they won't be able to defeat the Devil King with their current levels. When Kazuma asks if she's upset that they defeated Verdia, Wiz says that she doesn't care much, and he was the type of guy to roll his helmet under her to look up her skirt anyway. Then she says that she can teach him a skill, but she would have to use it on someone first, and Kazuma volunteers Aqua for the role. Wiz tries to use Drain Touch on Aqua, but she resists, though eventually she lets the lady do it. As Kazuma learns the spell, she tries to use anti-undead magic on Wiz. Wiz gets a bit transparent, but Kazuma stops her before she does more damage. Just then, an old man enters the shop looking for Wiz. Later, Kazuma's party is approaching a villa. Turns out that the landlord would allow them to live in the mansion if they managed to exorcise it, and this is the issue that the old man came in with. Apparently, the spirits here reappear as soon as they're exorcised, but Aqua is, as always, confident in her power. As she does the thing where exorcists tell a whole novel's worth of mansion history as soon as they approach it, the others head in to clean up and assign themselves rooms. Evening comes, and Aqua's still at it outside talking about the spirit of an aristocrat's illegitimate child, but the others are done with cleaning for the day and disperse to rest up before ghosts appear. Kazuma is happy to finally have his own room and bed, and fairly confident in Aqua's ability, but a shriek disturbs his thoughts. When he runs into Aqua's room, it turns out that a bottle of expensive alcohol she's been saving has been opened and freed of its contents, so she blames it all on evil spirits and starts running around the place to punish every last spirit she comes across. Kazuma calmly goes to sleep as this is happening, but when he wakes up in the middle of the night, there's a creepy doll in his room that wasn't there before. As he closes closes his eyes to calm himself down, a lot of ghost dolls appear around him, terrifying him even more. As he runs to Aqua's room, he instead finds Megumin there. He asks what happened, and she says she also encountered the dolls and was waiting for Aqua to come back and protect her. Turns out they both woke up needing to use the bathroom, and when Kazuma tells her to close her eyes so he could use the veranda, she clings to him, emphasizing the importance of teamwork in times like these. However, before they can go for number 1 in a party, they see a bunch of dolls in the window. They run out and find the bathroom, and Megumin goes first, but before she's even halfway done, the dolls appear in the hallway, and Kazuma barges in and runs away with Megumin. They run into a storage room, and Megumin starts chanting for her explosion magic, but before she can finish, the door into the room shakes. Kazuma tells Megumin to run while he'll try to use Drain Touch on as many dolls as he can, but when he opens the door, he hears a thud. They find Aqua out cold with a bruise on her head from the door he swiftly opened, a bunch of unmoving dolls surrounding her, and darkness standing right there next to all that. Next day, they get the reward for the quest to exorcise the spirits from the receptionist, and she tells them that there's a special reward in there too because the spirits haunted the house from someone putting up a barrier on the graveyard close to it. Turns out that someone was Aqua, who didn't bother exorcising the spirits from the graveyard where they met Wiz, and instead put up a barrier and hoped for the best. Kazuma refuses the special reward from the guild, and the party finally settles into the mansion for good. As Kazuma cleans up the grave of the aristocrat child on the grounds of the mansion, Wiz visits and remarks that everything here happened for the best, congratulating them on their new place. As Aqua calls him in for lunch, Megumin says they're out of wood for the fire, so of course Aqua says to throw his tracksuit in, so he rushes inside to stop that from happening again. As Megumin and Darkness play chess, Kazuma lounges around in front of the fire. Aqua comes in and tells him to relinquish his spot, calling him a low-leveled newbie because she's the highest level in the party. Kazuma notices that her stats never improved, but she says it's because they were maxed from the start, not the flex you think it is. He stands up from his spot, crying because now he knows her low intelligence stat will never get better. As he walks around town, he spots 2 adventurers he got to know recently called Keith and Dust. They act shifty, and when he asks them what's going on, they say it's because there's a shop nearby that's run by succubi giving you really nice dreams. Safe to say, Kazuma is interested. When they enter, the place is full of ladies dressed in about as little as you'd expect in such a place. When one of the ladies shows him to the sign-in table, he meets the guy who welcomed them into the guild way back, happily making his way deeper in. The lady approaches him and explains how it all works. Since many adventurers sleep in stables, there's not much chance for them to relieve their needs, so the succubi open this place up to fulfill that need, and the amount of vitality they take is minuscule. She gives him a sign-in sheet and explains that he can be anyone in the dream, and any girl, whether real or not, is fine, but if he drinks too much that day, they won't be able to give him any dreams. Kazuma comes back to dinner, and it turns out Darkness's family sent a bunch of crabs and liquor to congratulate them on finally getting their own place. The crabs are so delicious that they can't stop eating them, and Aqua shows Kazuma how to drink liquor from a crab's shell. Pretty fancy. As he gets the bottle, he remembers that drinking is a no-go for tonight, so he tries to endure. When Darkness tries the same trick and says that it's a great way to drink, he still tries to endure. It's hard to continue, so to everyone's surprise, he turns in early. That's right, Kazuma, never surrender. However, he's so excited that he can't sleep, so he goes to take a bath to relax. Kazuma dozes off in the bath, and when he wakes back up, the lantern flame in the room has gone out. Darkness enters the room, and it's at this point that he figures that this is a dream, so he just goes along with it, acting aloof. She gets really embarrassed and falls down, but he nonchalantly stands up and gets out of the bath. Then, he sits down on a seat and asks her to wash his back while her brain is exploding from what's happening right now. When she asks what would happen if Aqua or Megumin found out, he blurts out that they could go in the bath all together anyway. Comment if you're calling the cops on this man. Dream or not. Darkness wonders what is going on with Kazuma today, but he keeps on insisting on her washing his back, so she starts shyly doing it. When she finishes, he starts asking for something else, but then Aqua screams that there's an intruder in the house. Kazuma is really upset that he has to wait more, so he goes out in a towel, but he finds Aqua and Megumin with an immobilized succubus girl. As Aqua says that it's time to exorcise the girl, Kazuma stands in her way, telling the succubus girl to run away. She feels guilty for getting caught and doesn't mind being eliminated, but then Darkness comes in and says that Kazuma's been charmed by the girl since he's been talking all sorts of weird stuff back there. Aqua says that she won't mind beating Kazuma up to get to the girl, so he tries to fight them but immediately gets his face punched in. Luckily, the succubus girl manages to escape with her life. The next day, Kazuma and Darkness are on awkward terms, and Kazuma claims to not remember what happened yesterday at all. She's relieved by that, but also says that he was very forceful last night, but she didn't dislike it. As he says that it's not really his fault since he put up the sign that the bath was occupied anyway, she starts doubting that he doesn't remember anything. Just then, an alarm sounds. The alert alert for a mobile fortress by the name of Destroyer. As the warning for the Destroyer blares, everyone is packing up their things. Even Aqua and Megumin get their belongings to escape. Darkness explains, Destroyer is an ancient weapon on a rampage, and not even grass remains on the land it passes through. Even after hearing that, Kazuma tells the rest of the party to assemble at the guild with other adventurers, since he won't let it destroy the home he's finally earned himself. At the guild, a staff member shows them a magic ball that shows the monster, a giant machine in the form of a spider. It will arrive in the town in an hour, so they don't have much time. Some adventurers lament that Mitsurugi would have known how to deal with the monster, but he's nowhere to be found. Kazuma asks Aqua if she can remove the barrier from it, but she doesn't know unless she tries. The receptionist tearfully says that they'll also need some heavy-hitting magic, and you guessed it, there's a pipsqueak who fits the bill just fine for that. Even with that, Megumin isn't sure that she could take down the monster in a single blow. Just then, Wiz comes by since she's also a qualified adventurer. Everyone gets weirdly hyped about this, and when Kazuma asks why, he's told that she was once known as a powerful arch-wizard. As everyone is preparing the city defenses, Kazuma catches Darkness at the edge of town, staring into the distance. When he asks if it's a fetish thing, she replies that for once it isn't. It turns out that her real name is Dustiness Ford Lalatina, and she's the daughter of the Dustiness family who governs this area. Thus, it is her duty to protect the peace of this town. Darkness asks if she's selfish for that, but Kazuma replies that unlike a certain selfish goddess, he doesn't mind when someone like her acts selfishly. After she says not to tell her real name to anyone, they spend a quiet moment, at least until he quietly calls her Lalatina, and she shrieks not to say her name out loud. The receptionist announces that the destroyer will be in sight soon, and moments later they finally see the gargantuan fortress. Megumin trembles at the sight of it, and Kazuma starts having his own doubts. When Aqua asks Wiz if they're going to be alright, the Lich replies that if they won't make it, they should go back into the soil at peace with each other, which is also not encouraging. And then, the destroyer is finally within the distance of Aqua's spells. Aqua uses a powered-up Sacred Break spell, and it runs into Destroyer's barrier. It's not enough to break the barrier, but with great effort, Aqua increases the strength of the spell and finally breaks it. Just then, Wiz tells Megumin to launch a concurrent strike. Megumin is still shaking, but she snaps out of it after Kazuma tells her to show off how strong explosion magic can truly be. Both she and Wiz then cast explosion magic at the same time, overwhelming the destroyer from two sides. The monster is seemingly felled right before Darkness, so everyone says something sappy to trigger a flag for something bad to happen. Then, the destroyer's eyes flash, and a loud announcement rings out that the self-destruction sequence will initiate, out of the frying pan and into the volcano. The adventurers start running away, and Kazuma tells Darkness that they should evacuate. At first she says that as a knight, she can't just run away, but then says the prospect of standing before a bomb that could obliterate a city is exciting to her. With that, her excitement goes through the roof and she charges in to attack the spider machine. Seeing this, a lot of adventurers remember the good times they had in this city, namely the Succubi Dream Shop, and charge in as well. Wiz tells Kazuma that if they find the control device, they might be able to stop the self-destruct sequence, so Kazuma leaves the exhausted Megumin to rest, grabs Aqua's hand, and runs into the fortress. They find a room with a long, mummified body of the creator of the fortress, and next to him is a diary that details how much of a fool he was to create it. They didn't pay him much, so he requested that a rare coronitite was brought to him, but they actually did it so he had no choice but to make it. When it went on a rampage, he just resigned himself to his fate, spending the rest of his life there. The coronitite is right in front of them, but they don't know what to do with it. Wiz has an idea, so she asks if she can suck it out of Kazuma, and he agrees immediately, not even asking what she wanted to suck in the first place. What a gentleman. Then she uses Drain Touch on him and he momentarily becomes a raisin. Wiz says that now she can use teleportation magic, but it can only be a random teleport, so she doesn't know where it will land. Kazuma says to do it anyway, bidding on his good luck to save the day. And so, she does, and the coronitite disappears. They go out to the deck and notice Darkness standing there, and her keen senses tell her that it's not over yet. Just then, the fortress starts to glow red. Wiz says that the fortress is going to explode due to internal heat, so there was no reason to send the coronitite away anyway. Kazuma is thinking they should explode it again, but Wiz has no more magical power. He tries to drain some from Aqua to give to Wiz, but Aqua says that her holy power will make Wiz disappear. Just then, Megumin arrives on the back of an adventurer ready to start blasting. Wiz tells him that skin contact closer to the heart makes Drain Touch more effective, so Kazuma touches both Megumin's and Aqua's back of the neck to make a transfusion of energy from one to the other, though Megumin takes a bit more than she needs to produce a truly terrific spell. Then, she casts the explosion magic of an extraordinary power. After the battle, everything returns to normal. As Kazuma thinks of his adventures in retrospect, even his silly allies and harsh life in the stables start to seem like trials to make him grow stronger. As he smiles, thinking that this was a long tutorial, Aqua comes in, saying some knights came from the imperial capital. When they finally meet the knights in the Adventurers Guild, not everything is as rosy as expected. He is suspected of the crime of subversion to the state and blamed for the teleported Coronadite destroying Overlord Aldarp's mansion. As everyone panics, Kazuma wishes that the next world he goes in would be less nonsensical. And that's it for the first season. Kazuma's adventures will continue another time, and I think we all hope things go his way. See you next time.